Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to another computer science lecture for 9618 A2 content, and this is paper 3 advanced theory. Today we are going to start discussion on chapter number 17, that is security. Now chapter number 17 is a relatively small chapter, a small topic. It only consists of one big well, I shouldn't really say big, it's not that big. One subsection, that is 17.1 encryption protocols and digital certificates. As you know very well, in today's world, in the digital world, encryption is a key characteristic. Encryption is the foundation of the entire security rhyme. As you know very well from your O levels, from your AS level, encryption means to convert data into an encrypted form, into a gibberish form, into a protected form, so it cannot be opened, it cannot be understood by an unauthorized person, even if the data is intercepted by a hacker. Encryption and decryption are the fundamental processes in order to secure your digital information and transactions, etc. Encryption means to convert plain text into ciphertext so that any unintended recipient cannot understand it at all cost. Whereas decryption is the reverse of this process, where you convert a unreadable ciphertext using an encryption algorithm as well as an encryption key back into plain text. This is rather a callback to the previously known knowledge as well. Key concepts in encryption, again just a little reminder. Plain text, you know, the original unencrypted data. It can be text, numbers, files, videos, or basically anything that can be stored on a computer. Ciphertext, the outcome of an encryption process or an encryption algorithm. It can appear as a random string of numbers, letters, and special symbols. Under any circumstances, you cannot directly read it without decrypting it using an encryption key, or without a key simply. Key is a crucial information. Key is the code, the formula that is used by an encryption algorithm in order to lock or unlock, or you can say in order to encrypt or decrypt a certain message or a file, etc. Reasons for encryption. The main reason for that is confidentiality. Basically, you don't want anybody to read your message on its way to the intended recipient. So obviously confidentiality is the first and foremost reason. Then we have authenticity. In order to make sure that the message is being read by, the message is being received by the person who is authorized to do so, we use encryption, because only the intended recipient will have the decryption key, so only he or she would be able to read the message. Then last but not the least, we do it in order to protect integrity. The ciphertext must not be modified during transmission. If it is modified, then you will not be able to translate it back into plain text, and hence the integrity of data cannot be compromised during transmission. Keys are the heart of cryptographic process. They are the secret element, the formula, the secret sauce that makes all of it possible. Alright, moving on. Now, whenever we are talking about encryption and the encryption process, there are two things that we mostly talk about, or there are two types of keys that we talk about. One is a public key and one is a private key. A public key is primarily used in asymmetric in cryptography or asymmetric encryption. It is freely distributed and it is known to the public, hence the name public key. It encrypts the data, and the encrypted data that you have encrypted using a public key can only be decrypted by the corresponding or a matching pair of private key. Next we have the private key. It can be used by both asymmetric and symmetric encryption. It must be kept secret in order to ensure security. In symmetric encryption, only a single key is used, so the private key is used to both encrypt and decrypt data. After encryption, you have to send the key along with the message, which poses a key problem, and hence symmetric encryption is not really used anymore. We have asymmetric encryption, where you encrypt the data using public key, using private keys, and then you send the file the intended user who already has your public key from before, and they can use that in order to open the file. Alright, so here is a little discussion about symmetric key. Now in O levels you only studied this much about symmetric and asymmetric encryption, what I have kind of just revised. Over here, since you're now in A2, you have to kind of learn about a few different algorithms that are used for symmetric and asymmetric encryption as well. Here is a little diagram to show you the process of symmetric encryption as well. Now again, you know this very well from your O levels, so I'm not going to go in much detail. Examples of symmetric algorithms include AES, Advanced Encryption Standard, which is widely used for its strength and efficiency, as well as DES, Data Encryption Standard, which is a rather older version, an older standard. Now it is less secure due to its shorter key length. Then we have the asymmetric or the public key encryption or the public key cryptography. You already know the process. One key is used for encryption, the other one is used for decryption. Hence, you solve the public key distribution problem. You don't have to send your key along with the encrypted message, so nobody can intercept it. Characteristics: it employs a public and a private key for improved security. The separation of keys make it more secure, but also more resource intensive, because every time you have to generate two matching pair of keys. It is commonly used for encrypting small data sizes like emails or for distributing symmetric keys. Now we only have one example of that is RSA, Reversed Shamir Edelman. Simply RSA, or if you have a better pronunciation for it, go for that. I don't mind. Sending private messages to individual recipients. Both in symmetric key encryption, both the sender and receiver have to use the same key for encryption and decryption. So that kind of makes sending private messages not really a not really a good idea, because if you're trying to send something secret, it can easily be intercepted. Now if you talk about asymmetric encryption, if an encrypted communication has to take place between several people, then everybody would need to generate their own matching pairs of public key and private key, and they'll need to exchange it or share it, their public keys, with all the other members, so that messages can be isolated, messages can securely be sent and received. Although it looks like seems like a hassle, but it is much more efficient and much more secured. This can create an issue of who will be generating so many keys and how they all will be managed. Also, it would be difficult to know what message received is sent by whom. For example, how to make sure a message received by A is actually from user B and isn't being tampered with during transmission. Now, by using digital signatures and digital certificates, we can easily solve this problem. Keys can be used to verify the identity of a person or a device, and so you can make sure that the communication source is legitimate and there has been no interference in the communication. Now, one type of cryptography that we have is known as quantum cryptography. A quantum cryptography it uses a unique concept that is known as QKD, quantum key distribution. It involves the use of quantum mechanics to securely distribute cryptographic keys that cannot be copied or that cannot be pried upon no matter what. Quantum mechanics uses a special unit for data measurement, which is known as a qubit or a quantum bit. The state of a qubit can be either 0 or 1, but it can also be both 0 and 1 simultaneously. Qubits can inhibit superpositions. That means they can simultaneously exist in multiple positions. That is something why we call this as quantum cryptography, because in quantum mechanics we can have things existing in multiple states simultaneously. This attributes facilitates very complex and multi-layered encryption that is almost impossible to break. It is impossible to create an exact copy of an unknown quantum state, thereby increasing the security of QKD. Now, QKD often uses polarization states of photon to encode information. A photon is a single particle of light. Now, there can be 4 possibilities for the state of polarization. Either the photon will be like this, it can either be represented as up and downward arrows, it can either be horizontal, a double-headed arrow, 2 of its states can be diagonal. If it is up down, In this state, it represents a 1, this represents a 0, this also represents a 1, and this represents a 0 as well. Now, by using quantum mechanics, quantum cryptography achieves a level of security that is theoretically impossible, at least theoretically impossible to break. Although we haven't really had a instance where somebody was able to practically infiltrate it, but still it is considered secure against the threats posed by the advent of quantum computing, a significant advantage over traditional cryptographic methods. Because of the use of quantum computers, you can totally eliminate any threats that are usually present when you try to send your messages through a traditional media using traditional cryptography. The technology enables the immediate detection of interception during the key exchange, which really enhances the communication security. Disadvantages: the implementation of quantum cryptography is currently marked by very high costs and technological complexities, like not everybody is able to program it or apply it. Quantum cryptographic systems are effective only over limited distances. If you want to have a worldwide communication system, that is going to be a problem. You won't really be able to have a very long distance communication, at least for now. Maybe in future we'll be able to overcome this problem, but for now we have this limitation. The deployment of quantum cryptography necessitates a shift from existing communication infrastructure to quantum based systems, and as you know very well, we do have quantum computers, but so far they're very costly, and only the very fine, very top of the world multinational companies have it, like Google and Microsoft and NASA, etc. They are not common in our everyday use. We don't have quantum laptops and quantum desktop computers. Hence, majority of the world will not be able to utilize quantum cryptography, at least for now. Quantum, unless and until Intel or some other company probably makes a very cheap version of quantum processor for everyday computers, this is going to be difficult unless and until somebody is able to do that. Quantum states are fragile and they can easily lose their coherence due to environmental interference, leading to potential information loss. Basically what happens, we'll discuss it later, if a photon is traveling in this state, and even on the slightest of interferences, it can quickly change from this to this. And you know very well, since O-level days or IGCSE days, that how crucial it is that all the bits in your message remain unchanged during transmission. Otherwise, the message you write somebody hello world and the other person receives go to hell, that's going to cause a problem. Okay, so this image shows how quantum cryptography works. A single photon works as a private key, so you send it the recipient, but if somebody tries to eavesdrop, if somebody tries to intercept, they can. If you look at a photon in its quantum state, its state changes immediately. As soon as you try to peek, its state changes during communication. That is, if somebody else tries to peek in, the state would change and the sender and recipient would immediately be notified somebody is trying to pry on your information. The communication channel would end effectively and immediately. Okay, this we have already discussed. Next we have protocols used for security. So the first thing we have is the secure socket layer protocol, SSL, and the second one is TLS, transport layer security. They are usually used together, so hence they are written as SSL/TLS. Now, what are the purpose and the function of these two protocols? They are designed to provide a secure channel over an insecure network like the internet. SSL stands for secure socket layer, TLS is transport layer security. It is a more advanced security protocol which prevents a third party from interfering or hacking the communication taking place between user's browser and the web server. TLS has two layers, whereas SSL simply encrypts the data being sent and received between a web server and a user, whereas TLS breaks the data into two layers. First is the record protocol, which contains the actual data being sent over internet. This layer can be encrypted or unencrypted. The second is the handshake protocol, where this is the layer on which browser and web server authenticates each other, they identify each other, and they establish a secure encrypted connection. TLS uses session caching, which improves performance. Session caching basically means that storing and reusing user identification information, so the next time the same user comes, you don't have to waste time in identifying it, you can do it quickly. When you okay, here's a more detailed, thorough explanation of session caching as well. This secure channel is essential for preventing unauthorized access, eavesdropping, and tampering with the transmitted data. This is how TLS and SSL work. This is the client, this is the server. First of all, they synchronize and acknowledge each other. Then client hello, this basically means client asks for the digital certificate, it sends it back, it verifies it. After verification of the certificate, if they are able to verify it, then they exchange their client keys. The client exchanges their key and the server finished. This is the handshake layer of the SSL TLS, where you identify, where the server and the client identifies each other. Then encrypted application data transfers by using the data at the record layer. The process of identifying each other by exchanging keys, and before that by verifying the digital certificate of the server, the SSL certificate of the server, is known as handshaking. Key functions. Now basically SSL TLS is a form of the basic tool in this is the encryption. It converts the data into a code before transmitting so that any unintended recipient cannot open it. As well as another key function is the authentication. The protocols authenticate the identity of the server and sometimes the client as well, in order for the server and the client to be sure of each other that the data they are sending or receiving comes from a trusted source or towards a trusted source. Data integrity. Now the last key feature of this protocol is the data integrity. They include mechanism for detecting alteration during transmission. This ensures that the received data is exactly what was sent, maintaining data integrity. Use in client-server communication. It is a cornerstone in client-server communication. I'm talking about SSL TLS. Key applications include web browsing. Most of the websites nowadays have HTTPS in the beginning of their URL, indicating the use of SSL or TLS protocol. We have all the email websites, whether it is Gmail, Hotmail, Outlook, or whatever, Yahoo, all of them, whichever emails use the protocols of POP3 and IMAP, they always use SSL/TLS protocol to ensure emails remain safe during transportation. During FTP, protocols such as FTPS and SFTP, secured FTP, utilizes SSL or TLS to secure file transfer over the internet. Then for online transactions, especially for banking websites or e-commerce transactions, we also use SSL and TLS protocol. Scenarios where these are crucial: for e-commerce websites, for online banking, for cloud services, because obviously these are all scenarios where you wouldn't want your data to be leaked to a third party. For corporate communication, a business would not want their internal communication to be leaked anyone. Healthcare services, nobody would want their health records to be leaked or viewed by people other than their intended doctors or other than their consultant doctors. For government services, obviously government services cannot allow their secure or secret data or their internal communication to just be leaked all over the place. Hence, these are all the scenarios where a use of SSL/TLS is very, very crucial. Digital signatures and digital certificates. The public key infrastructure, PKI, is a set of protocols, standards, and services that allow clients and servers to authenticate each other using a method known as digital certificate, which are always issued by a third-party service known as the CA, Certificate Issuing Authority, or the Certificate Authority in short. PKI is a model that requires the provider to use an encryption algorithm to generate public and private keys. Now, how would you obtain a digital certificate? A digital certificate is just like your digital passport. If you want to communicate with anyone over the internet, it is often implied that you have to show it and you have to verify it before the communication can take place. It basically establishes the ownership of a public key so it can be used to verify you, performing the foundation of PKI model. Each certificate contains the public key, information about its owner, and it is digitally signed by a trustworthy third-party authority, commonly known as the CA. So you can simply write it as signed by CA or verified by CA. These are trusted third-party authorities whose only sole purpose is to issue digital certificates. CA ensures the authenticity of the applicant, thus maintaining the trustworthiness of this entire process. Now, how can you acquire a digital certificate? First of all, you'll generate a pair of keys, a public key and a private key. Then you'll initiate a certificate signing request that would include their public key and their information such as their name, organization, country of origin, etc. This data will be processed and verified by the CA, and then a digital certificate containing their identification information as well as their public key will be issued to the requestee, signing it with their own private key to attest its validity. Now this is a picture to show you the process as well, because oftentimes it's easier to understand a picture as compared to the text, the written information. Digital certificates have a predefined validity period, or you can say they have an expiration date. Once the date arrives, they cannot be used anymore. They have to be renewed, otherwise they'll be useless. The renewal process is typically the same as the initial certificate issuing process. You again have to put a CSR, certificate signing request, along with your details and your public key, and then you can be issued a renewed certificate. Now, how do we use it? In web communication, they are primarily used in SSL/TLS protocols. They facilitate secure communication between web browser and web server. In e-commerce, they authenticate the identities of the business so that you can make sure that the payment you are making is going to a legitimate company, so you can receive your product from them and not going to a scammer or an imposter. They're essential in scenarios like online banking, online shopping, social media, etc., or any other website that handles your sensitive data. Creation and verification of a digital certificate. Signature. Now that we have talked about digital certificate, now basically the last thing to discuss in this chapter is digital signature. A digital signature enhances data integrity. It is a cryptographic mechanism which validates the authenticity and integrity of a digital message or document. It's like a tamper-proof seal or a very special seal, providing a digital equivalent of a handwritten signature or a specialized seal. Now, how do you create a digital signature? You take your original message and you put it through a hashing algorithm that converts it into a non-changeable, non-reversible, one-way, into a fixed size, unique gibberish string made up of characters, numbers, and special symbols that is used as a hash value. Now this hash is then encrypted with the sender's private key. The encrypted hash along with the hashing algorithm forms the digital signature. Now how do you verify it? Upon receiving, the recipient decrypts the signature using the sender's public key that they have from before, and then they unlock the hash value which was sent along the message. Then they put the message through the same hashing algorithm and they generate a hash of their own. Then they compare the hash value they generated with the one that was sent along with the message. If both of them are equal, that means the digital signature is verified, the message is accurate, the message has not been tampered with. But if there is any discrepancy, that means a tampering or interference has occurred during transmission process and the message cannot be verified, or the message is not real, or it cannot be trusted. Digital signatures are crucial in scenarios requiring non-repudiation, where the sender cannot deny the authenticity of the message sent. They are widely accepted in legal context and are essential in contracts, governmental documents, secured communication, etc. This is the process of signing a digital document. Basically, you're just generating a hash for it, but in retrospect, you can say it is known as digitally signing a document. And this is the verification process. Again, I believe diagrams make you understand the concepts better. hence here. Otherwise, I've already explained you all the necessary steps. And that's absolutely everything you need to know for your chapter number 17. If you have any questions or comments, please write them in the comments below. Do let me know whether you liked this lecture or not. Give me a thumbs up if you do like this video. Share it with your friends. I'll see you guys in the next lecture. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.